Prices are climbing higher than ever, and Americans are feeling the squeeze in 2025. But this isn't just an economic crisis. It's rewriting the rules of politics and changing how people vote. What's happening right now could reshape the future of U.S. democracy. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the biggest issues shaping America in 2025, inflation. While politicians argue about statistics and economists debate solutions, everyday Americans are making choices based on their lived reality. The costs they face at the supermarket, at the gas pump, and in their rent checks are not just numbers. They're frustrations that translate into political behavior. Those choices are reshaping the entire political landscape in ways that will have consequences far beyond the economy. By the end of this video, you'll see exactly how inflation is rewriting the rules of U.S. politics and influencing voter behavior in real time. In 2025, inflation continues to dominate as one of the most pressing issues for families across the United States. The cost of housing remains out of reach for many. Food prices keep climbing, healthcare bills are skyrocketing, and energy costs add further pressure. Even when wages rise, they fail to match the speed at which prices increase, leaving workers feeling as if they are running on a treadmill, working harder but getting nowhere. For millions, this is not an abstract concept. It is personal and emotional. Families are cutting back on groceries, delaying medical treatment, and postponing major life decisions because of the relentless pressure of inflation. Surveys show that inflation now ranks as the #1 concern for most voters across party lines. It doesn't matter whether someone leans Republican, Democrat, or identifies as independent, everyone feels the sting of rising costs. And that is exactly where politics gets interesting. Unlike some issues that split neatly along partisan lines, inflation has become a universal pain point, but the way different parties interpret and respond to it couldn't be more different. Republicans have made inflation their rallying cry. They point to government overspending, high federal debt, and heavy regulations as the culprits driving prices out of control. In speeches, debates, and advertisements, Republican candidates hammer home the message that inflation is proof of failed economic leadership. Their solutions often focus on cutting taxes, slashing government programs, and restoring what they call fiscal responsibility. This message resonates deeply with small business owners, middle-class families, and rural voters who feel the squeeze most intensely. For conservatives, inflation is framed as evidence of a government that has grown too large, too reckless, and too intrusive in the economy. Democrats, however, tell a very different story. They argue that inflation is not primarily the fault of government, but of corporations exploiting crises to raise prices. They point to record profits in industries like food, oil, and housing as evidence that inflation is being driven not just by supply and demand, but by greed. Progressive Democrats in particular are pushing for policies that would hold corporations accountable, regulate monopolistic practices, and provide direct financial relief to struggling families. Their argument is that inflation is not just about higher prices. It is about fairness, inequality, and the growing gap between the wealthy, elite, and ordinary Americans. They are urging voters to see inflation not as a failure of government spending, but as a symptom of an economy tilted toward corporate power. Caught between these two competing narratives are the independents, the swing voters who often decide the outcome of elections. For them, inflation is less about ideology and more about results. They are asking very practical questions. Which candidate can actually lower my grocery bills? Who can bring down rent? Who has a credible plan to stabilize gas prices? Their frustration is high, and they are less patient with party talking points. Many of these voters are open to crossing party lines if they believe another candidate offers a real solution. Inflation, for them, is a test of competence rather than loyalty, which makes them one of the most unpredictable groups in 2025. The effects of inflation go even deeper, influencing not only who people vote for, but also how they vote. Voter turnout itself is being shaped by the economy. Some Americans, feeling hopeless and disillusioned, are staying home on Election Day. Others, particularly those hardest hit, like young families and renters, are becoming more politically active. They are joining protests, engaging in activism, and demanding change more vocally than before. Inflation is fueling both apathy and activism, depending on how directly it impacts people's daily lives. Campaign strategies in 2025 reflect this reality. Candidates who once might have focused on foreign policy, immigration, or social issues now find themselves forced to center their campaigns on the economy. Almost every debate and every advertisement circles back to one fundamental question: how will you make life more affordable? Politicians know that unless they can answer that convincingly, they risk losing voters' trust. The economy is no longer just one of many issues. It is the issue that defines everything else. Something fascinating is happening beneath the surface as well. Inflation is driving unexpected political alliances. Some conservative voters, normally opposed to government intervention, are beginning to support policies like rent control or healthcare subsidies because they are desperate for relief. On the other side, moderates in both parties are beginning to agree that long-term solutions require bipartisan cooperation. Stabilizing supply chains, investing in domestic energy production, and reforming healthcare are now viewed by many as goals that transcend party politics. Inflation, as painful as it is forcing Americans to reconsider old boundaries and seek common ground. But the emotional toll of inflation is just as significant as the political shifts. It is about more than numbers on a chart. It is about parents explaining to children why their favorite foods are suddenly too expensive, about seniors deciding whether to pay for medicine or utilities, about young adults giving up on the dream of owning a home. These personal stories fuel frustration and anger, and that frustration translates into political determination. People are tired of promises that don't lead to results. They want immediate change, and they are prepared to punish politicians who cannot deliver. At the same time, inflation is eroding trust in institutions. Conservatives blame government mismanagement, progressives blame corporate greed, and independents often blame both. The common thread is a sense of betrayal, a belief that the systems designed to protect them are instead failing them. When trust in institutions fades, people start searching for alternatives. Sometimes that means supporting outsider candidates, sometimes it means grassroots activism, and sometimes it means unrest. This erosion of trust is one of the most dangerous consequences of prolonged inflation. Yet even in the middle of this crisis, there are signs of resilience. Communities are coming together, organizing food drives, supporting local businesses, and demanding policy changes. Protests and activism are not just acts of anger, they are also expressions of hope that democracy can still work if citizens make their voices heard. Inflation may be tearing at the fabric of everyday life, but it is also reminding Americans of their power to demand accountability. So inflation in 2025 is not just an economic issue, it is a political revolution in progress. It is reshaping voter loyalty, rewriting campaign strategies, and redefining what it means to lead in America. The candidates who succeed will be those who not only recognize the pain people are feeling, but who can present tangible solutions that restore both trust and hope. In the end, inflation is more than just rising prices. It is about trust, power, and the future of democracy itself. The choices voters make under this pressure will shape not just the 2025 elections, but the direction of the country for years to come. Will voters place the blame on government mismanagement? Will they see corporate greed as the true driver? Or will they decide both are responsible? Whatever the case, inflation has become the lens through which Americans are judging politics, and that lens is rewriting history in real time. So there you have it. Inflation is not only changing the economy, it is changing democracy itself. The leaders who understand that reality and who speak directly to the financial struggles of everyday Americans will be the ones who shape the nation's future. If you found this breakdown insightful, be sure to like the video, subscribe for more analysis on U.S. politics, and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. And here's the big question for you. Do you think voters will ultimately hold the government more accountable, or will they see corporations as the main driver of their struggles? Share your thoughts in the comments, because your perspective matters. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.